I believe we're about to be tricked. Order out of chaos is their motto, and chaos is exactly what appears to be coming. Please do not panic. Please do not add to the turmoil and confusion by hitting the streets. Instead, stay calm and be safe. Consider the following. The USA has always had absentee voting available to any U.S. citizen who is unable to go to the voting polls in person to cast their vote. Ask yourself why a massive amount of voting ballots have been mailed out indiscriminately when a tried and true system is already in place and has been for years. Very simply, it's to create chaos and to obfuscate the true results of the 2020 election, delaying the result by weeks, maybe even by months. On January 20th, if the election results are still unclear, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, will be sworn in as president temporarily. Supposedly. Talk about nightmare scenarios. Only LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, clearly drunk with power when he turned off the water and the electric on Californians who dared to congregate in their homes, would be a worse happening. It is my opinion that the ballots being mailed indiscriminately en masse is for the purpose of fraudulently stealing an election and hoodwinking the American people. The goal of the opposition is to destabilize the USA so they can rob us of whatever freedom we have left after COVID. If you strained against the leash under COVID, how will you handle martial law? Maybe. Before we move on to your monthly aspects for October of 2020, I would like to share a quote from Timothy Snyder's book, On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. He wrote the following: Be calm when the unthinkable arrives. Modern tyranny is terror management. When the terrorist attack comes, remember that authoritarians exploit such events in order to consolidate power. The sudden disaster that requires the end of checks and balances, the dissolution of political parties, the suspension of freedom of expression, the right to a fair trial, and so on, is the oldest trick in the Hitlerian book. Do not fall for it. October 2020, planetary transits for Virgo and Virgo rising. This is an equal house chart set up for 0 degrees Virgo on the ascendant, Eastern Daylight Time, New York. We begin October 1st, 2020, with 3 planets in Capricorn in the 5th house sector. Jupiter at 17 degrees, Pluto at 22 degrees retrograde, and Saturn at 25 degrees of Capricorn. The Sun is placed in the 2nd house at 8 degrees of Libra. The planet Mercury is in the 3rd house at 4 degrees of Scorpio. Venus is placed at 28 degrees of Leo in the 12th house. Mars is at 24 degrees of Aries in the 8th house retrograde. Uranus is in Taurus at 9 degrees retrograde in the 9th house, and Neptune is at 19 degrees of Pisces retrograde in the 7th. The moon is in Aries at 2 degrees in the 8th. On October 2nd, Venus enters Virgo and moves into the 1st house. On October 4th, Pluto turns direct motion at 22 degrees of Capricorn, 29 minutes. October 13th, Mercury turns retrograde at 11 degrees of Scorpio. October 22nd, the Sun enters Scorpio and moves into your 3rd house. October 27th, Venus enters Libra and moves into your 2nd house, and retrograde Mercury re-enters Libra and your second house. October 1st brings the full moon, 5:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 9 degrees of Aries in opposition to the Sun at 9 degrees of Libra, spanning houses 8 and 2, highlighting personal finances and values versus joint finances, assets, and the values of other people. The full moon sheds light and brings clarity, making this an excellent time to have discussions, make plans, and reorganize your financial picture. Bring into balance your personal needs and wants with the desires of others. Mercury opposed Uranus on October 7th between houses 3 and 9 could bring unexpected news from a relative, neighbor, or an international connection. Maintain flexibility and a willingness to accommodate changes or disruptions in plans. On October 9th, Mars square Pluto between houses 8 and 5 warns against engaging in power struggles with loved ones. As an aspect of potential violence, stay away from volatile people and circumstances. Indulging in ruthless behavior under this extreme energy could have negative consequences. If contending with someone on a power trip, step aside and protect yourself. Venus trine Uranus on October 10th between houses 1 and 9 is a very social vibration best utilized in the company of others. A good day for taking a trip with friends and having fun. On October 11th, there are good feelings all around under Sun square Jupiter between houses 2 and 5. Use this magnanimous energy to heal love relationships that have become strained. Jupiter sextile Neptune on October 12th is a very idealistic and spiritual energy, bestowing great creative inspiration. Occurring between houses 5 and 7, there could be an opportunity for a new relationship with potential to develop into something deeper. The Sun opposed Mars on October 13th between houses 2 and 8 warns you to keep your cool and detach from indulging in any emotional scenes. These houses rule finances, and the clash could be about money. Confrontations at this time are thoroughly egocentric and more intent on winning than finding a balanced compromise. Wait for an easier time to find a compromise between what you want versus what a partner wants. October 16th brings the new moon, 3:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 23 degrees of Libra in the second house, highlighting and energizing your personal finances over the month ahead. This new moon is in high tension by square to Pluto and Saturn in the fifth house of loved ones, in opposition to Mars in the eighth house of joint finances and money from others, indicating a rocky road ahead, but still workable and doable with some patience and persistence, the kind that is compromising and not egocentric. Bullying and knocking people over to get what you want or to get a plan in motion will backfire in the form of enemies who then try to stop you. Progress can be made. It all depends on how you choose to handle yourself and others. If you give those around you the impression that you're on a power trip, you'll bring out the destructive side of these potent energies instead of utilizing to your advantage the power and strength these energies bestow when channeled the right way. On October 18th, when the Sun squares Saturn, you'll have the first opportunity to handle frustration in a positive way. This square goes between houses 2 and 5, whether it's criticism coming from a loved one or encountering obstacles to your plans. Detach and let go of whatever destructive emotions are generated. Also on October 18th, Venus opposed Neptune between houses 1 and 7 warns not to believe or worry about something you hear from a partner. Chances are it's only a rumor, or you may not have all the facts. Three planetary aspects hit on October 18th or 19th, depending on your location. The first one is Mars square Jupiter, between houses 8 and 5, an extremely busy and productive energy. The second one is Venus trine Jupiter, between houses 1 and 5, excellent for your creative pursuits and relationships with loved ones. And the third, occurring later on this day, is Mercury opposed Uranus, between houses 3 and 9. Excellent for all communications and connections, both local and international. Venus trine Pluto on October 21st and Venus trine Saturn on October 24th, between houses 1 and 5, points to harmony in your relationships and aids you in healing and stabilizing connections. Mercury conjunct the Sun on October 25th in the third house favors a sit down and discussion with those in your day-to-day environment to discuss planning and reorganizing to accommodate changing conditions and needs. October 31st, Halloween, brings the full moon. Again, the second one this month, also known as a blue moon. 10:49 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 8 degrees of Taurus in opposition to the Sun at 8 degrees of Scorpio, spanning houses 9 and 3, highlighting all forms of communication, both the written and spoken word, and all personal contacts. This full moon is aspected by Uranus in high tension, conjunct the Moon in Taurus and oppose the Sun in Scorpio. Expect the unexpected. Please keep yourself safe and protected during this full moon, taking into consideration the unstable conditions on many of our streets. It is very possible that those who wish to wreak havoc and insurrection in our society will use this opportunity to masquerade behind Halloween costumes so that they are unrecognizable. Uranus in high tension is an aspect of potential violence and warns against taking risks.